Everything's on fire. Everything's on fire. Everything's on fire.
Welcome back, everybody. We had a week off. I appreciate you guys letting me go on vacation, but we're back. It is Thursday night. It is the Devy Hour. We are the only show, the only fantasy show that would give the Bates Motel a 4-star review on Yelp. I am your host, Brad Menendez, as always joined by Paul Veldboom, and tonight we're actually going to talk about Devies. I know we've been hot and heavy on the rookie content lately, but we said, we're going to go back to what the name of the show actually is, and we're going to talk Devies. Tonight we're talking freshman quarterbacks, only the freshest of the freshman quarterbacks. But before we get into that, Paul, how are you, sir?
I am excellent. That's a very sexy-looking hat that you picked up at a flea market off of Cletus. I'm just really happy that you didn't run into Travis Rudolph when you were down there.
I stayed away from...
We're getting it out of the way early tonight, boys.
I stayed away from the one per show while I was in Florida, that's for sure.
That's funny, because when I was last in Florida, the Seminole Heights thing was happening.
It seems to be a reoccurring theme that bad things happen in Florida.
At least he didn't go Phillip Adams. All right, I'm done.
That's it. We're done. Show's over. Oh.
All right, we got it out of the way early.
All right, so tonight we're going to talk freshman quarterbacks, but before we get into all that, thank you guys for hanging out with us. If you like the videos, don't forget like, subscribe, do all the notification stuff so you can stay up to date when we do go live, so you can hear all of these amazing one-liners that we throw out. We are going to keep focusing on Devy content now that the rookie stuff's out of the way, but our other shows will still be hitting rookies hot and heavy. So don't forget Tuesday night. Our Monday show will probably as well, which is IDP, but we'll still be talking rookies. But Thursday nights, we're back to Devy. So sorry if you were looking for rookie content, that's not tonight. We're going to give you rookies that you may see come to the NFL in 3 or 4 years tonight.
There's only so much film you can watch on Najee Harris and Fields, Wilson before you go, you know what? Someone else. Anyone else.
But, as always, with every fantasy show that I host, if you got questions, put them in the chat. We will answer them. Doesn't have to be Devy related, but it can be. Devy trades are a thing, too. Devy trades matter. So, but we're going to start tonight. We're going to talk about freshman quarterbacks that are coming in 2021 that you may want to keep an eye on. Some of these guys may get a chance to start at their schools sooner rather than later because they're just superior athletes, superior players. Maybe their schools don't have much in the cupboard currently at quarterback. You never know. So we're going to just get right at it. I'm going to let Paul start because he's probably going to drop the most significant freshman quarterback name, and we're going to talk a little bit about him. So, Paul, you can have the first choice.
I mean, we discussed before the show. You know who I'm going to say, but there's like 3 or 4 that could fit here. But Caleb Williams out of Oklahoma, he will sit for a year at least behind Rattler. I'm not as high on Rattler as everyone else. That's why I'm saying at least a year, but he should at least hold him off unless there's an injury that happens. He just has an NFL frame as a freshman. He's not completely filled out, but you can tell that it's here. He's got a solid throwing motion even as a freshman, and he's accurate, and he doesn't want to use his feet despite having functional feet. He's got first overall upside in a couple years. Obviously, that's upside. That's not floor or anything like that. The floor with anybody we mention on this show is found coke and is in prison and all that stuff, and they just never see the field. But he's got first overall upside. How do you feel about him?
Well, and I read a couple of things on Caleb Williams that I found quite interesting, and it's obviously still way too early on, but I read that he was running in the 4.6s when it comes to a 40-yard dash time. That's solid. Very impressive time for a quarterback. I do like. He's not super tall. You know, what is he, like 6'1", maybe 6'2", if he's on his tippy toes. But he's not short by any stretch of the imagination. I think he does the other thing that I liked on him was the vision. The bit of the plays that I saw him running, The tape that I saw on him, I liked. It seemed like he was doing more than his first read. It looked like he was progressing a little bit, and that's really nice to see coming out. You mentioned it pre-show. Oklahoma's had a pretty solid history of quarterbacks with Baker and Jalen Hurts and some of these guys. Spencer Rattler has potential. I don't know if they're going to unlock it, but we'll see. Caleb Williams should have no problem pushing for playing time if Rattler doesn't show up this year. I mean, if Rattler's not what they expected him to be, Caleb Williams will push him, and as he should. He's a really talented quarterback. I think Caleb Williams will definitely be a name to watch. And when you look at composite scores, I think he was like the top. Like he was like the top overall dual threat quarterback, if I remember correctly. So
Yep.
he's a 5-star recruit. He's definitely the elite of the elite when it comes to quarterbacks in this class as a freshman. So I'm a fan. I like him. I think there's a lot to like about Caleb Williams at Oklahoma. Now, I also want to preface this by saying most of your Devy leagues probably aren't deep enough that you're going to be jumping on some of these guys, but they might be. If you're in a super flex, these guys you definitely want to consider. Caleb Williams is a guy that should be on Devy rosters in a super flex situation.
Yep.
But again, that also depends on how deep your Devy leagues are. The one that Paul and Craig from the Monday Show and I are on, you can have up to 15 Devys on your roster. I try to have 15 Devy players on my roster every year because I like to take those shots. Caleb Williams in this league will be rostered if he isn't already. I haven't looked at the rosters recently. Those types of 15 and 10 are probably where you want these types of guys rostered. Less than 10, it's debatable. It really depends on your league makeup and what you're like there.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have a list or my list in front of me, but if you're playing super flex, he's probably between 30 to mid 50s overall for super flex Devy assets, even as a true freshman. I mean, and I stress the super flex on that,
Right.
but
Yeah, one QB, you're
QB shows
probably
so.
not happening.
Yeah.
So I'm putting it out there just so that everybody understands where we're looking at. In Superflex, some of these guys could potentially be on rosters or should potentially be on rosters. My first guy, I'm going to go with my homerism. Obviously, it's not Florida State, but it's University of Michigan. JJ McCarthy is a kid from Illinois, another 5-star prospect. But he's more of a pro style quarterback. The downfall with him, at least in my mind right now, is the mobility is above average for a pro style quarterback, but it's still not really what the NFL is looking for right now. They're looking for hyper mobile quarterbacks. There are some teams that still have your more pocket passer type quarterbacks, but McCarthy, even at his age now, has a big arm, can make tight throws, put it in a tight window, if you will. He does a lot of the things that you want to see. He seems smart with the ball from what I've seen so far. I really like him. I hope that John Harbaugh doesn't ruin him. That's my biggest concern, is that he went to Michigan, and so far Harbaugh has not known what to do with his quarterbacks, which is weird because he's a quarterback. So I don't know, but I do like the player a lot. He's somebody that I've targeted quite a bit. I believe I have him in the Pinnacle League, which is our extremely deep Devy league. I made sure to pick him up because I really like the player. I think he could be a guy that pushes, for second round consideration in the NFL draft at some point. I don't know that he's ever really going to peak at first round type value, just because I don't know if by that point everybody's looking for more mobile quarterbacks. He might just get, the Kyle Trask treatment, but we'll see. What do you think about him?
I think I like his arm a little bit more than that. I I think he was probably about and it's an odd season because you do have a whole bunch of junior film and scouting high schoolers this year was a mess. But I think he was probably 10th to 20th overall freshman this year, whereas I think a lot of the sites had him like 30th through 70th. So I thought higher of him than a lot of the others. I just think he looks like a pro in the future. Especially if you play Superflex. I'm not saying you select him high or anything, but he should be selected if you roster 10 each or more. Maybe even 8 or 6 or somewhere in that range, he's probably owned in Superflex.
He's good. I mean, he's got the size. For a pro style quarterback, you want bigger with a bigger arm. The kid's 6'3" ish with a big arm. I mean, everything you want to see out of a pro style quarterback, he's got it, and he's a freshman.
Yeah, yeah, I like him more than you, but the Michigan thing's
A concern.
it's a concern. I mean, it has to be a concern.
And that's sad because up until now, Harbaugh seemed to know how to be successful with coaching. And he got to Michigan, which everybody assumed it would be a shoo-in that Michigan would be the talk of the Big Ten. And they've been more of the laughing stock of the Big Ten. So we'll see. So next up for you, who is your next freshman quarterback you want to talk about?
Let's go with Brock's son, Sam Heward, Washington. He just has an NFL arm from an accuracy perspective. He's not the best with his he's not the best athlete and or with the feet, but his arm is it's elite. If he can develop any sense of rhythm and figuring out how he moves within the pocket, he's got first overall upside. It's hard to sit here and overanalyze high school film because they can just out athlete or in this situation out arm the defense, but yeah, he was rated high and it wasn't hard to see why.
Yeah.
I know he's been owned for a couple years in your you draft 4-year-olds league, but yeah, he's really good.
Yeah, solid. I mean, he's got great size. He's 6'2". By the time he gets out of college, he'll put on enough mass and muscle. He's got the perfect size for quarterback. Damon Hewitt is his dad. Brock Hewitt is his uncle. That's some NFL pedigree right there. I mean, that he's getting properly coached at home. He's been getting all the proper help from dad, along with all of his coaches. You know, he came from a lesser known. I mean, when it comes to scouting, you think of the IMGs and some of the some of the schools up in Jersey, but he came out of Bellevue, Washington, out of Kennedy Catholic. I mean, interesting kind of trajectory to get him to college, but he's following in the footsteps of his family, going to Washington, and should develop nicely there. Their coaching staff, I think, is solid. The things I liked about him when I'm just looking over my notes was just the fact that he could make any throw, with that kind of arm, plus plus athleticism. Not, he's not one of the most mobile quarterbacks, but he's got enough to do what he needs to do. The football IQ is there because, well, he's been learning since birth. So I definitely think he could be a guy that we're talking about, come NFL draft time when he comes out. So I agree. Definitely somebody that you want, he's another 5-star guy that you probably want to have rostered. And I wouldn't be surprised, if people are rostering him. I would be, it makes perfect sense to me. And especially, when we think about it, think of some of these next couple years worth of NFL draft classes at quarterback. They're weak. I mean, so if you're thinking, I'm trying to build my Devy roster and I want to have some names, you might have to skip a couple of seasons worth of players if you want the truly elite options at quarterback. So I wouldn't be afraid to skip over some of those and go after guys like this that come in looking like they're probably NFL ready pretty soon. And a guy like Sam Heward is definitely one of those guys.
He's got the best touch of anyone I've seen in high school since I really started scouting high school. Just the accuracy touch wise it's phenomenal.
Yeah.
Even as a high schooler.
Yeah, he's good. He's solid. He's definitely somebody to be excited about. This next guy I mentioned, it may just be recency bias that I looked at Oregon for quarterbacks. Ty Thompson, he basically looks the part of the last few Oregon quarterbacks. 6'4", just big bulky frame with a big arm. I don't know that I love his long-term upside. I think he is a solid kid, big arm. I think he's got probably just as good mobile profile as Justin Herbert and some of these guys that have come out recently. But I think there's a lot to be. I think he needs a little bit more coaching than some of these other guys. So I think he's got an arm to be able to make all the throws, but I haven't seen him do it. There's some erratic throws when I watch the high school tape. So he's a guy that I'm interested in, but don't get me wrong, I'm not putting him anywhere near the category of the last three guys we mentioned. I think he's a very interesting prospect that goes to a school that has pumped out NFL quarterbacks as of late. So somebody to keep an eye on, but needs some seasoning before I'm willing to really put my stamp on him. What do you think about Ty Thompson?
I don't have much to add on that. He's got accuracy issues, but a lot of these guys somewhat have accuracy issues. But when you're watching guys against high schoolers and he still has accuracy issues, it's a problem. He's got an NFL frame as a high schooler, but he's a lot more wait, see, and hope versus I feel solid about this wait, see, and hope.
Absolutely. And so this is not a guy that you're probably drafting yet, but this is a guy you want to keep kind of on your back of your mind watch list and see how things progress with him.
If 12 months from now he ends up as someone, hey, we're looking hard at this guy. He's got the frame for it, and scouting high school is a lot harder than people think it is.
Oh, it's a crapshoot.
If you're in the SEC, you probably have 5 or 6 guys full watching this who make between 40 to 75,000 a year, and they get it wrong. And they're doing it 24/7, 365 right. For money. Like, scouting high school is, come on, snake eyes.
Yeah. Well, and for me, I start by looking at the schools that are producing the talent, so you start with the IMGs of the world, and then you kind of work your way down. We're not pros, we're not scouts, so we have to, do our best to read the tea leaves and try to follow those that are doing it. I mean, it can be quite difficult, especially, so now we're how many steps removed from the guys that are actually doing it. It's like, it can be a crapshoot for us, at least. Pro scouts and the guys that are, I should say, the paid scouts, they at least have the film. Now they have to figure out if what they're seeing on the film can translate.
When you listen in on college, and specifically, I'll say Southeastern shows, and they go, hey, we think out of the class, we're going to have 8 guys to transfer out the first year. That means that 1/3 of your signings are going to be out, and maybe half of those are because of reasons that you didn't even foresee. That's how much of a crapshoot this is, and they need linemen, corners, safeties. They need all these positions. Like, I can't emphasize hard enough. One of these first 5 is going to be first overall. One guy's going to be smoking crack in 4 years. One guy you're never going to hear about. One guy's going to be round 7, and you go, yeah, whoops. Like, which one? Well, we'll see.
Yeah. We think we have a good idea, but that doesn't mean anything.
And this isn't the NFL where if you suck, you're the 5th receiver. Like, if you suck in college, you're just like
finding another job.
You play for Northeast Community, and you're selling gas, and we just never hear from you again. Like, the downside is downside. Not you make $5 million in the NFL and you're just out in a couple years.
Right.
Like, no.
Yeah, there's real downside. So Ty Thompson,
yeah.
Who is your next guy that you want to talk about?
Drake May from UNC. He lacks some of the accuracy, but he's got an NFL frame, NFL-ish legs, at least for somebody who, I don't have the size in front of me, but I remember he's like 6'3",
6'4" is what I read.
Or something like that. he's got the arm also. He does have to take some of the oomph off the throws once in a while, but he's got first overall upside for me, especially in Superflex. If someone selects him 35th to 45th overall, okay. In
Well,
startups,
yeah, and having to sit behind Sam.
I'm fine with
Well,
that
yeah, and
Superflex.
having to sit behind Sam Howell, you might get lucky and he could slide down because people are looking. Typically in Devies, from what I've experienced, sort of, guys are looking for who's going to come out in the next year or two so that we can get the best bang for the buck. So this guy might slip down a little bit, and I mean, when I
I think that helps
Oh
him.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I think he's got better athleticism. So I saw a couple of people comp him to like the Mac Jones. When it comes to kind of the size, arm strength. But I think he's way more mobile. Like I think when you see him move around, it looks like he can do some things and at least extend the play if he needs to. Like think Big Ben before you know 2014 or 15. I mean, where he can really get kind of do some things on the ground. So I like him. I think he's a really interesting prospect. I don't, for some reason, UNC quarterbacks. I mean, you just didn't. They're becoming a quarterback factory, which is weird. And I think May will continue that line. I think Howell's really nice prospect, and I think May is as well. Um, it's hard to really see a lot of weaknesses to his game. I think he really comes in quite ready for college competition, which if Sam Howell wasn't there, I would say they should be starting him from day one because I think he can do it. He doesn't look to get frazzled. The note that I had on when he was getting pressured, he didn't seem to get scared. The seeing ghosts that people saw with Darnold. You didn't see that with May. So I like the kid. Real interesting prospect.
Yeah, he should be rostered in like all Superflex formats. Almost, uh, unless you're super shallow, he should be rostered in all Superflex leagues.
Yeah, for sure. I don't argue that. I think he probably should have a spot. But that's the other interesting thing with Devy leagues is, from what I've seen so far, outside of my insane Devy league, like either you're competing, so your Devy roster's kind of depleted because you've spent most of your assets to build a contender, or you're just super deep and now everybody's waiting to eat the scraps or pay high price for what you've already drafted. So you really want to get on some of these guys earlier rather than later if your leagues are hopefully not too deep.
Yeah, it's interesting how much everyone just loves Devy prospects that they drafted themselves. Like if you ask anyone else, it's, oh, I love him to the moon. It's like, can we be realistic here for a minute?
Just
But
because you took him doesn't mean he's any good.
I mean, but it just seems like you asked, so you have to give me X. It's like, ugh. Trading in Devy is,
Difficult.
it's hard. And you think it makes it easier. Oh, well, I get your second. I think this guy's a second. And then this guy goes, oh, well, I think he's a first. Then it's just, all right, scratch him off the list. Who else can,
Well, because it's
it actually makes it
well, it
harder.
is because you have to project what you anticipate this player is going to be, and that's not easy for people to do. I mean, even the most
Yep.
seasoned Devy players still are like, I think this, and it's completely different than the next person. So,
And then they end up going round 7, and then you both look like fools.
well, that's the fun of Devy. Like, none of us are as smart as we think we are. So,
That's right. You want to get humbled fast.
play Devy.
Play with more than, I was gonna say, play with more than 5 per roster. You get humbled because you miss a lot.
Yeah, yeah, that's an accurate statement. So next up, I'm going to go with the cover athlete of this show. If you were watching earlier on YouTube and pre-show, Caden Salter from Tennessee was the kid we had on the cover tonight show. I think he fits the mold of what some of the NFL wants to do nowadays with the really athletic guys that can get you a lot of fantasy points on the ground, but have accuracy issues to be worked on. My concern is that he went to Tennessee, and I don't know that they've got somebody that's going to develop him. I'm not insanely familiar with the coaching staff, but I know enough to know that I've not seen enough out of these guys to make me think they can take a dual threat quarterback, develop the ability to read coverage and make your reads and go through your progressions and make accurate passes through a tight window, through double coverage, all of that stuff. Like, I don't know that they've got that. So this guy is, if you want a dual threat quarterback, this is it. Like, he has a lot of ability on the ground with the ball in his hands, but he needs a lot of help in some of the other areas, at least from what I've seen so far. What do you think about Caden Salter?
I'd be happier if he just trusted himself and he threw it. He needs a lot of receivers to be wide open before he throws, and because of that, he's got hopes the XFL is up by 2025 and might not make it downside. But I mean, and that's pretty hard to sit there and say, hey, here's the athlete. He doesn't have anything mentally. All right, you're going to be now second, third, fourth overall. That's quite a leap of faith. But I mean, he's got the frame for it, but he just has to learn to throw the ball. Not just wait 15 seconds. Oh, this guy finally. Oh yeah. No, that's
Well,
not
and that
even in the SEC that
well,
doesn't
and
work.
he's got the arm to get it down the field. So really, what coaches are going to have to do is help him to build trust with his receivers and anticipate that they're going to do the route that there's planned for them. You know, so that's the unfortunate thing with high school ball. You don't have to trust that your receiver is gonna get where they need to be, because if you've got the hyper athletic guy, he's gonna beat the coverage. You just get the ball to him, or you're gonna run the ball a bunch and you're gonna get a lot on the ground. And I mean, so that's kind of where it's a bit of a crapshoot in high school. So for a guy like Caden Salter, if the coaching staff can help him say, this is what your receiver is going to do, throw the ball when he gets to step this, and when he makes his cut, make sure the ball's out there. I mean, he can be coached in these areas. So my concern is are the coaches going to be able to do that? I don't know. So this is not a guy I'm rostering yet, but he's definitely somebody I'm keeping my eye on, because he's an athletic player at the quarterback position, and the NFL likes that nowadays.
Yeah. Yeah, I wasn't a huge fan, but if he's available in the last round of our XFL, I'll see who's there.
Well, in the XFL, it's there's about 5 of us that are going to make all the picks, so who knows?
It's true. I I finished in third, and I thought I'd be selecting third, so
It's the way
yeah,
the world works, right?
I still have my picks. All right, so Brock Griff is the next one I have. Georgia. He's got the NFL frame. He's got Mac Jones' feet, which is not a compliment right there. He has to shorten up the throwing motion a lot. He does have some upside with the arm, but again, this is one of 25 that we can go, yeah, maybe. I mean, I don't think I really have anything besides that.
It's
Did you feel strongly?
well, he is very prototypical quarterback for Georgia right now. Since Stafford, I don't know that Georgia's had a quarterback that's really been much more than an NFL backup. I mean, think of the Aaron Murrays of the world. I mean, like, yeah. Like, I love the player. I love the physical tools when it comes to the ability to get the ball down the field, the strength. But I don't know that Georgia's going to be able to do anything with him. I mean, I think his receivers, he's got a great core of receivers when they're all healthy, so if anybody's going to do it, it's going to be him. But I don't see much more than NFL backup potential with him. As much as I'm like, man, when I watch the kid on film, I'm like, ooh, he's got a big arm. He can make the throws that he needs to make. but he's just going to get beat up at Georgia. I mean, Georgia's not had the greatest offensive line over the last few years, and I don't know that it's going to get any better. You're much more of the offensive line scout than I am, so maybe Georgia's offensive line better than me, but what I've seen from Georgia recently, it's like, eh.
I don't have a concern at Georgia, and it's not like they play Bama and LSU every week. That's not my concern. My concern is him figuring it out between the ears, and him having a throwing motion that the safety says, "All right, I'm just gonna eat something here. All right, well I can run over here. All right, now I'll make the interception." I mean, he just has a long motion, and that gives the safety forever to run over and pick it
Yeah.
off.
I was just
So he's got to tighten that
Yeah,
up.
I was just going through my notes, and it looks like I thought at some point that he does a pretty good job when the play is not scripted, like going off script and making some things happen. So that's a plus. I mean, at the NFL, plays break down all the time, so you have to be able to make it work.
Yeah.
So he's got that going for him. Uh, we'll see. I mean, Georgia hasn't really been much of late when it comes to developing and getting quarterbacks into the league. So he's a guy that you need to be willing to take a chance on because he was a strong prospect. I mean, 5-star kid, got the size, got the NFL frame. Was he 6'3", 6'4", if I remember correctly? I mean, he's definitely there's something there. He wouldn't have been rated nearly as high as he was if he wasn't showing something that was a bit off the charts. So we'll see.
All right, who did you have next?
I've got a lot of names, not people I'm super excited about. So I'm going to go, we'll go Tyler Buckner from Notre Dame. I'm just pulling my notes up on him now.
Oh, he did commit. I don't even have a school written
Yeah,
down for him.
he picked Notre Dame, which is good. I mean, that's a good place for him to go. I think, he's a nice dual threat prospect that Notre Dame will know what to do with him. The notes that I have on him, I also have that he had ACL injury problem already, but he's recovered from it and looked to show no signs of that affecting him. Great dual threat prospect, has a really good athletic frame, very much fits in the Notre Dame style of quarterback where he can do a lot of things on the ground, can move around, maybe not the biggest of arms, but definitely could be a nice prospect there at Notre Dame. I like him better than Ian Book is what I put in my notes, so for whatever that's worth.
Yeah, he's got a lot of the same issues that who's the guy we just talked about,
Vandegrift.
the Vandegrift. He's got that or I'm sorry, not Vandegrift.
Oh, are you talking Ty Thompson from Oregon?
No, it must have been Vandegrift. Was he the guy I wrote down that he doesn't throw unless he's
Caden
wide open?
Salter.
Salter, yeah. He's got some of that also. He just runs a lot. He just expects that the play breaks down and he makes it on his feet versus having the play break because that's what happens. He just expects that it happens and then he runs. It's not the same as just, hoping. He's got the size. He's more of a I'm gonna let somebody else have him, but if he ends up working out, yeah, he's got the size for it, which is almost the requisite number one.
Absolutely. All right, who do you got next?
I have a whole bunch of running backs here.
That's next week's show.
Was Max Duggan a freshman?
No,
he wasn't.
No, I don't believe so.
Harrison. Oh, shoot, I gotta scroll back up. Who is the Ohio State guy? The guy who can't throw?
Justin Fields. He's in the NFL draft. Just kidding.
No, he plays tight end for Georgia. No, sir. Kyle cord.
Oh,
He's got an NFL frame and NFL arm, but he doesn't use any touch, and he throws off the back foot like every throw. He doesn't use his feet to set his feet and make an accurate throw. He just, oh, well, there's a D end in front of me. I'm just going to lean off the back foot and throw. Like, that's going to get exposed very fast. But if he can figure it out, you do have upside there. I'm just not willing to take a shot on the upside with him.
yeah.
But he does have an NFL frame and NFL shoulders.
Yeah, I do like so for anybody watching in the crowd, if you go to like 247, they try to get measurables on these kids, 40s, things like that. For this kid, they do have quite a bit measurables. 5, 7, 40, so 5.07, which is it's a bit slow. I've seen offensive linemen go a little faster. 4, 5, 7, 4 shuttle. 28 and 25 and almost 26-inch vertical. The kid's 6'3". I think the thing that I like most about him, which I think it's the kind of the intangible stuff, so his leadership ability, his ability to not break under pressure, things that I guess don't necessarily. I mean, they make up the profile of the player, but I don't know that they matter as much as some of the physical stuff. I don't like his throwing motion all that well. Kind of like what you were talking about him. I don't really have a lot more to add other than the things I like are things that I don't know how much they matter. Leadership and poised under pressure are helpful and are important things. But with as many times as the play breaks down and players have to get out of the pocket, sometimes that poise is only part of the equation. If you have the athletic ability to get out and extend the play, it doesn't matter. What we know about this kid is the athletic ability probably isn't as strong. So he's going to need a strong offensive line to give him time and let him do some things. Going to Ohio State's going to be good because they're going to have tons of talent at the running back and wide receiver position. So all he's really got to do is not ruin it, and he probably has a shot to get to the NFL pretty easily.
I don't know if they look at him as somebody who's the future or if they look at him. I think they look at him as someone more of, if he works out, we don't have to leave a big bag in 2022 or 2023 for a high schooler to find in the back of a car in the parking lot. Um, I think he's a lot more hopeful at that school, and I think the odds he ultimately does to transfer out are probably 80% in the end of this. And I'm not saying that you'll never hear from him again. Who's the guy that went to transferred out of Texas, but because Shane Bouchel.
Oh, yeah.
You're gonna hear from him again probably. I just think that their school is gonna look at him as more hopeful than sure thing
Sure.
in the future, and they're gonna make him earn it versus handing it to him just because they do bring in the talent that they do
Everybody wants to play for Ryan Day.
as a whole.
Yeah,
So
for sure. No, I don't. I mean, I don't. He's a high end prospect. I mean, when you look at as kind of his composite rankings, I mean, he's one of the more highly rated quarterbacks. So it makes sense that he goes to a place like Ohio State, but he's going to have to work hard to keep that thing going. So we'll see. Next up, a kid for me that was recruited by your FSU but chose the Mississippi State Bulldogs, and that's Sawyer Robertson. 6'3", probably 6'3", 6'4"-ish, good size. He's not the most athletic, but he's more athletic than Kyle McCord for sure. He has the thing that I liked about him is he was extremely productive. They were a very pass-happy school that he was at before getting to Mississippi State, and he looked solid. He made most of the throws that they asked him to make. I don't know that I saw I don't know that I saw like the big arm, but he's got more than enough arm power to get the ball all over the field. He's got the ability to be a pocket passer, but I think he's got enough mobility to get out and not. I don't know that he's not a true dual threat, but I don't think he's a slouch either. So, interesting kid. Mississippi State's not really produced much to be excited about. What KJ Costello is a name, but not much else. Before
Who's the guy in front of him? Also,
uh,
Coral, the USC
Matt
kid.
Corral's at Ole Miss.
Where did he go again?
Sawyer Robertson with Mississippi State.
Oh, sorry, wrong Mississippi school. Yeah, whatever. They're all the
A
same.
few miles away. Well, but Matt Corral at least looks intriguing as an NFL quarterback, especially when I didn't like him. But watching him last year, I think he made a big stride. I mean, I was really impressed with how Corral handled things last year.
He does have some where were you throwing that moments, but he also has enough of the okay, you don't have anything else here and you're still making plays upside. Yeah. He'll be interesting for next year. I did not scout the kid that you named. I pretty much stopped at about once the top 100 was over for like overall. I'm like, I'll figure it out next year. None of my leagues are this deep.
Unfortunately, one of my leagues is. So this kid was on the list. I wasn't extremely impressed, but impressed enough that there's potential. I don't know that anything really comes from it. He's best case he's probably a day 3 player. Worst case, he's a future plumber of the world.
Yeah. As a whole, when you start watching overall high school rankings, they're a lot like the overall NFL ones. You have your top 4 to 7 overall players. You have a next 50, and then after that it's a crapshoot. And then once you get to about the top 100 overall, everyone is okay. They have 1 to 1.5 out of the 3 things that you're looking for, and you're just hoping that they work out. And then you do have those that just become, as they get older, they get bigger and faster. And there's just no way you can see that. And then you have other ones that just, again, I'll pick on McCord because he's easy. Like, okay, he's got the athlete, but he doesn't show anything else. And then they're just out of the picture in 12 months, and you never hear from them again. I'm not saying that that's going to happen, but
you never know.
I won't have the picks. I mean, you see it, so-and-so transfers out. If they weren't in the top 30 to 40 to 50 overall prospects in the nation, and sometimes even if they don't see the field, I'm out. Like you don't hear from them again.
Nope, you're
like they hope they catch on at the lower schools and they hope they show it, but there's just 100 of them that are maybe, and he fell below that threshold.
Oh, absolutely.
Below the threshold for me, and I didn't scout him.
Nope, that's okay. He's definitely not somebody that I think is. He's probably 15 to 25 in the 2021 class anyway, so it's not like he's
as far as
position wise. So it's whatever, Who you got next?
I don't have anyone else. I just have sophomores and beyond that.
All right, so I'm going to keep throwing some names out just so that you guys have some names, and then we're going to call it. We'll call it a little early because, well, these are freshman quarterbacks, so it is kind of what you get. I'm going to throw out a couple names. Kid went to USC. His name's Jackson Dart. I think he's an interesting prospect, mostly because of where he went and how they are pretty solid at getting guys to the league. 6'3", he's got the size, average speed. I I think the biggest thing for him that I like was the ability to, he's got some really good velocity on his ball. I mean, I wouldn't say he throws, pitcher speeds, but he's definitely got a powerful throw. Uh, good arm. Definitely a guy to keep an eye on. So far, not extremely excited about him, but a guy that at least I have on my list of people to keep an eye on. Who else? Kid who went to Alabama, Milrow. Milrow's his last name. Hold on, let me figure out. I didn't put him on my list for tonight.
I watched him. I somewhat liked him, but he didn't make my notes because I don't forget what I hated about him, but I just won't have any shares. It's
Jalen.
amazing. Yeah, it's amazing how even receivers and the other positions, everyone that was in Bama's like 70 to 100 overall, I liked more than other schools 30 to 50 overall. Not all, but it was really odd how oh, yeah, he's with Nick Saban. Ah, crap.
I know. Well, and
Like
that's the thing that scares me about him. He went to Bama. Dual threat quarterback that goes to Bama.
he might not see the field. Well, I think Saban has learned that offense is not his thing, and to let somebody else run the show. To be frank, he did it with Tua and he did it with Hurts.
Right.
So he's at least acceptant of, all right, I just pumped the brakes and somebody else has to handle the gas. He's obviously going to sit because Young showed enough
Yep. He'll
to
get the
hopefully
first
see the
shot.
field. Um, yeah, he's going to probably have a second or third shot, even if he screws up, just with the skill set he's got. I'm not saying I'm super high on him, but from a college perspective, he was one of those top 5 to top 8 overalls last year.
Yep.
He's going to get first, second, and third shot at it, but
Yeah.
I did watch him. Was it accuracy that he didn't have, or what was the fatal flaw?
Oh yeah, well he definitely has trouble with the accuracy. I mean, he is a true dual threat quarterback. He can do a lot of stuff on the ground with the ball in his hands, can extend plays and do things like that. But he's going to need to do a lot of work because he went to a school where he's going to have a target on his back. I mean, you get everybody's A game every week when you're playing. I mean, I know Alabama put some soft teams on the schedule, but everybody comes trying to knock them off. So if he doesn't lock that down and get better with his progressions, he's going to have trouble. But he's also going to sit, so he's got plenty of time to learn.
Also, he's going to have lots of help, and if he doesn't work, I'm not saying someone else will work, but they bring in enough talent that someone should.
Right. Well, and yes, absolutely right. The last name I wanted to bring up was the Nutsmeyer kid from LSU, Garrett Nutsmeyer.
Yeah.
His dad is in the NFL. He's a quarterbacks coach in the NFL, if I remember correctly. So there's at least some quality coaching. He went to LSU. He's a smaller dude. I think he's only like 6'1", maybe, and he's not the most athletic. I don't necessarily say I'd call him a dual threat quarterback. He's probably more of a above average mobility type quarterback, kind of more leaning towards pocket passer, but he's kind of in between. He's not, he's not super slow, but he's not extremely fast. I was just looking over. I jotted a quick couple notes. Plus feet, he's able to make some things happen with his feet. He may not have the best physical profile, so that could be, the downside of it. And he went to LSU, so who knows? I mean, LSU's obviously we know Burrow came there and really lit the world on fire. So people are going to keep an eye out for LSU quarterbacks. I'm not touching them just yet. I'm at least going to keep an eye on them though.
It doesn't help that the guy in front of him fell on his face this year.
Does not help. He has a chance. If this kid works hard, he could push for playing time earlier. But
Yeah.
we'll see. Anything's possible.
So between him and Heward, they said that they basically had NFL coaching from age 5. Who's going to end up as Marinovich out of those two? Do you feel, smoking weed under the bridge?
Probably not.
Almost.
Probably Nussmeyer.
Okay.
would be my guess. I mean, I don't want to say anybody's going to do anything crazy, but Hewitt, I think, has a better shot to make it to the league and potentially do some things. But we'll see. And it's such a tough. I hate to call it like it is, but it's just such a tough game when you're projecting people that haven't even gotten to college yet or have barely gotten onto campus. It's like, ooh. I like the idea of putting these names out there because in my mind, I want to get people more prepared for and get people excited about Devy. So I want to do these freshman shows and do things where we're talking about guys that you may see soon or guys to keep an eye on. But it's like, oh, projecting these kids now. Ooh, you're getting the hottest of the hot takes because we have no idea. We haven't even seen him in a college game. So
Watching film on those who are going to be selected in 2 weeks, you can see NFL athlete, but you see them against the defense that is not good. When you're watching high schoolers, 90% of the people out there are going to be more concerned with biology and history in 6 months than they are about football. It's a bigger leap than we admit.
Mhm.
I think that there are, and obviously someone out of the we haven't discussed crowd is going to get faster, smarter, bigger, like as they grow. Like it's interesting watching that, but I do think you have first overall upside out of 4: Williams, Heward, May, and who was the fourth one?
McCarthy.
McCarthy. Yeah, he's probably a peg below, but I think the other 3 got legit first overall, at least upside.
Well, and think about it. I mean, in this show, we've mentioned, you know, what, 10, 15 guys maybe. When you look at like I'm just for the fun of it, just for giggles, I'm going to 247 and I'm looking up all the quarterbacks that are either signed or getting offers in the 2021 class. There's 168. Like, okay, any one of these guys hiding at the bottom of the list, or maybe not even on the list, that are walk-ons that get scholarships or something. I mean, you just don't know. I mean, think of it in the NFL. I mean, you have 32 teams. You've got this limited number of players to choose from and you can pretty good guess on who's going to be successful. Once you get to college, all bets are off. I mean, you're looking at the big schools. You look for track record of teams that produce NFL caliber quarterbacks or whatever position you would want to talk about. But I mean, you're just blowing that out of the water because think of how many collegiate schools there are. I mean, heck, the Redskins just signed a
12 months
tight end
ago-
from South America.
12 months ago, I don't want to say we as a scouting community didn't know who Zach Wilson was. 24 months ago, Burrow was a 6th round selection. I was high on him and thought he was a 4th. Whoops.
Well, I mean, there's no exact science. I mean, you trust your eyes, you trust what you see as best you can, you trust the sources that you believe are accurate or as close to accurate as can be. I mean, but it's still, we don't know half as much as we think we know. I mean, Rick says that every day, every stream we did for ages, he kept saying that when we first started with RotoHeat, and I believe it. We don't know half as much as we think we know. We're taking guesses, we're making as educated a choice as we can, and that's what we do. So that's it.
Hopefully somebody works out of the crew we didn't mention. Hopefully there's a second one that works out that we didn't mention.
Oh, and that's the great thing. I mean, that's the great thing about Devy is that you're going to have this crop of guys for next season to choose from. If we missed here, you either hold the guy if you believe in the player, or you go look for that next guy that popped or potentially is popping, and you just move on. I mean, just like in any situation, you don't want to hold a guy too long. If he really isn't showing anything, Don't be afraid to cut bait and go elsewhere. I mean, especially in Devy. Why not?
If you don't have the roster spot, yeah.
Yeah.
If you do have the roster spot, just sit and hope the talent works out.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, it doesn't usually, but
Maybe.
I know that there are some still holding out hope for Justin Shorter, and
Not looking good.
yeah, it's not looking good.
Not looking good at all. So there you go, people. We gave you some names to think about. Like I said, obviously there are quite a few more. So if you watch this at some point and you thought your name would be on our list, but you haven't yet, don't worry. When we talk about guys next year, maybe you'll be on the list. We are going to keep talking about freshmen for the next few weeks. So we'll hit running backs, wide receivers. We'll probably even maybe talk a couple tight ends. Who knows? Anything's possible. We are going to keep pumping this content on the Devy Hour, but then on our Monday and Tuesday shows, we're talking rookie, 2021 rookies still. So if you guys were looking for that content, keep on looking. Our Tuesday show, we've been hitting special guests hot and heavy. We had JJ Zacharyson on this last week. If you didn't get a chance to check it out, check it out. It was a cool show. He's a great dude and really fun to talk to. This week we got Steffi Smalls coming on. She's been connected to the Giants and pretty big in the community as well, and super fun to talk to. So we're going to have her on. The Monday show, I'm working on trying to get some IDP-focused guests, but right now we're worried about 2021 rookie content, so we're aiming at that. It'll be a good one, so make sure you guys stick with us. Draft weekend, we've got a lot going on. We are going to be ahead of the curve like we were last year where we live streamed the draft. We're not doing that same thing this year, but stick with us. It'll be fun. Like, subscribe, hit the notification icon, do the things I told you to do at the beginning of the show and every other time you see me. Thank you, Paul, as always, and we will talk to you guys again next Monday. Be safe, stay out of trouble, don't go to Florida, and we'll talk to you soon.